So today I'm here together with Jason Huck, who is one of the developers on StarCraft 2. If you could introduce yourself real quick.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm Jason Huck. I'm the lead game designer for StarCraft.
So we're here at BlizzCon. A whole lot of announcements have been made, and really what I want to talk about today is just all of the new stuff that has been, introduced into the game or will be introduced into the game in the future. So far we've had the opening on the main stage where we saw a couple of introductions, and then also the what's in the future panel. First and foremost, we got Stukov for the co-op version of the game.
Yep.
I started playing co-op a lot, I think earlier this year.
Awesome.
When I realized it was really popular and people seem to really enjoy it. But could you quickly tell me about the commander and what we can expect?
Yeah. So I mean, Stukov is our first sort of hybrid sort of Terran Zerg commander. So you have some Zerg units, you have some Terran units. Although I guess it's mostly still infested Terran in a sense. So he's all about just creating large, massive units. I find him to be really kind of, and this might sound bad as a passive play, but it's fun. It's like more, I should say, relaxed play. So like, you just have your building that spawns infested Terrans, and you just wait for them to spawn out, and then you kind of give them a place where you want them to attack, and they just kind of go out and they just do it for you. So it's very kind of, I find it more relaxing than other commanders. I guess it's a point of that when I say he's passive or whatever. But and then on the other side, he's got like infested siege tanks, infested diamondbacks, banshees, liberators. He's got his own powers up top, so he has two sort of what we call Timmies, which are like the Apocalypse and the Alexander, which is his battle cruiser from Brood War.
Okay.
So
I know he's playable right here, right now. I haven't tried him out just yet, but so how do I imagine that? It's like setting like a rally point, like a swarm or whatever?
It's exactly a rally point, yeah. One of his powers at the top is essentially a rally point. We call it psi emitter. Yeah. So we have so many psi things, like psi disruptor, psi. Yeah, so psi emitter, essentially you're just placing, that thing that will attract the Zerg, and that's where all your infested go to attack.
Like as far as like a moving army goes, are you gonna have to like construct buildings on the map to?
Oh, you have a whole base and everything. You have to build a barracks, you have to build a factory, you have to build a starport. You don't build any more infested structures. He just has one that starts in his base, like Swan.
Nova,
Swan starts with the laser drill. He starts with his infested Terran civilian. So yeah, so that's and if it dies, you can just rebuild another one. You can only have one of them.
So I heard of the siege tank that apparently it consumes civilians or something like that. I mean, what they said is that apparently it consumes civilians and then shoots them out of the actual siege tank.
Yeah.
Is that literally?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So you've got the siege tank and it's got its little spike. It's got the spine crawler spike. And so you'll see it. It just kind of automatically does it. You'll see your little infested Marine or civilian get near, and it'll poke them and pull them inside. And then when the siege tank fires, it fires out a volatile infested, which was a new infested that we created for the Nova mission packs. So it's like a Baneling infested, and so that's what it does. So it has an ammo count in the right, and I think it's stored to 8 infested inside it. Yeah.
So it's gonna be a completely different commander. I've actually been quite impressed with like how they all get designed, because obviously you imagine if you've got two commanders, one maybe focused on high tier unit and one like on the swarm, how are you gonna make a third one? And it actually goes really well. Like I know a lot of people were wondering the same for Nova, where the part of it was focused, or like you had Raynor focused on bio mostly, and then you had Swan focused on mech.
Yeah.
It's been really fun to like see the
it's really pushing the creativity of the limits of the creativity in this space. Like these are things we could never do in multiplayer, let's say, or campaign even. We could do it in campaign, I suppose, but it's still just like this is a space that really go crazy in, and also try to come up with new things constantly, because it's like as another Zerg commander, how do we differentiate this Zerg commander from the other Zerg commanders? Right.
Yeah. So how does that process go? Say, do you start with like a mechanic mostly, or do you start with say like a hero from the lore that you really like? So say, you first had Stukov, or did you first have the
mechanics? Well, it's a combination of things. There is like definitely like an inertia towards certain commanders. Like just everyone likes Stukov. I shouldn't say everyone likes Stukov. Lots of people like Stukov. It's a character. So he was a character that was kind of on the short list, like. So it's like, what kind of characters do we think we want to do in the future? Personality-wise. What might we need next? Like, obviously, we don't want to do like Terran or something. So we kind of want to also be conscious of like what the race distribution is. So it's a combination of those things, and I think that really the mechanics kind of come second to the character. It's more about the mechanics of what helps sell that as a character concept. So like with Stukov, it was infested. You know, that was the theme for him, and for Nova, it was elite like covert ops units.
Right.
So that's essentially how we
so
go
you have like
about
sort of a
that.
theme, and you build that, or you have a character, you build a theme around that character. And
Like Swan started with the laser drill. Swan was always like, he's always gonna have a laser drill, so let's focus it around the laser drill.
Besides Stukov, they also mentioned that there's a couple of new maps that are currently in the works. The name of the first one slips me just now.
Yeah, minor evacuation.
Minor evacuation. Yeah. The other was Dead by Daylight, if I'm not mistaken. But
dead. What I should know is dead of night. Sorry.
Oh, Dead of Night.
Yeah,
all
Dead
right,
of Night,
all right.
yeah. But yeah, minor evacuation is actually I shouldn't say it's really based on the Nova Covert Ops mission. There was mission 5, which is the space whale mission with the terrazine gas and everything.
Right.
So it's using the same tile set. The mechanic for that mission is fairly different because it's more of like a evacuation of shuttles, and you have to escort them while they leave the planet. And then Dead of Night is our co-op version of Left to Die, which was our back after Wings of Liberty arcade when we did a bunch of arcade mods. Yeah, we did Left to Die and Iron Chef and actually Blizzard Dota at the time. It was what we called it, you know.
Right.
So and then Starjewel, which everyone, I mean, like it was just another one that everyone really loved.
On the first one, the minor evacuations, you have to escort the shuttles. All right.
Yeah. And it's
It sounds pretty similar to like the missed opportunities when I first heard the.
it's I mean it's another escort,
right.
but there is elements of variability in the mission, so it's not always the same experience. There's like 9 shuttles that can be tapped, and only 7 will be. So you might not always know which shuttle is going to be next.
So like replayability gets.
Yeah,
All
trying
right.
to add a little more variability and replayability in it. Yeah.
You know, once you complete a mission a couple of times, you kind of know exactly where to be heading next.
Yeah.
So is that something you want to introduce into the old maps as well, or like the previous ones, or
potentially? We're mostly focused on the newer maps, so the newer maps that'll probably be something we'll focus on for the newer maps, and then the old maps, the way we look at making them feel different is through mutators.
Right.
I feel like that's a more exciting area to like view the old maps in. It's like you recognize the old map, but let's play it with Avenger or any of the cool mutators that we've developed.
All right. Well, fair enough. There's there seems to be a
But who
ton of
knows? I mean,
plans,
if we like can look back on a map and say, oh, it'd be cool to add some variability or for replayability, we could do it. It's just kind of like getting the ideas. And,
they've always changed obviously since release as well. Even if it's just like the rocks added to the gas and all that.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the other thing is we are always reevaluating the experience, and if there's something we need to do to make it better, we'll do it.
All right, so I wanted to also quickly talk about the leaderboards for co-op. Can you tell us anything about that? Because that seemed like a really cool feature.
I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, it's an area that we wanted to. Really, the goal there is to give some competitiveness to co-op, or at least for those players that desire that. Because there's been plenty of feedback like, "Oh, I'd love to play."
I think it's
competitive co-op, and we're like. Not really balanced for that. Like I would imagine all sorts of balance issues there. But with leaderboards, it does let you compete, essentially, against other players. Like you're not directly competing, but you are comparing your scores and however we score it, because we're still working on the design for how we're going to score each mission. But then it's just like you'll see, okay, so and so play these 2 commanders. Here is their score. Can you beat that? And so then.
So it's based on score, not like on time. Like
it will be
it
will be based on score because some missions are variable in length, and we don't want to. I mean, how do you some missions also fixed length,
like the defensive missions, obviously.
So it is just going to be an overall score, and that will be derived from various stats. There'll be some period of time where we reset the leaderboards. So as new commanders get added as new maps, we just will refresh the leaderboard so you don't always stay on top. If you're number 1, you gotta make sure you keep playing to keep.
So is it going to be like individual ranking, or do you rank?
No, it'll be team. Well, actually, I don't know for certain, but it's probably going to be teams because you don't really play the game solo. So but that's something we could explore. I mean, if we should think about that more. How do we rate you individually as a player?
Yeah, I know that most of at least like the people that watch my content, a lot of them just solo queue into for example, I know a lot of people were. Mentioning that when Nova first got introduced, and probably still right now, like when you try and queue up with anyone else, you immediately get queued up with a Nova, but when you try and queue with Nova, it takes a while to find someone.
That's how it was with Alarak, and that's like...
I'm sure.
When I was playing Alarak, I was like... it's like 2 minutes. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play. I know I'm gonna get a game instantly if I switch back to Warzone, so I'll do that, But yeah, it's one of those things that it's cool. It's like, obviously, there's a lot of excitement from the new commanders, but yeah, that's a bit.
Yeah, I think leaderboards were really great as well.
So, yeah.
Because I got a couple of friends that I play with as well regularly, and they're usually pretty good at the game as well. So a lot of the missions can be completed really fast and just finished off really quick. But in particular, is that also going to be like a leaderboard for, say, the mutation missions then?
Could be. Yeah, I think we're exploring that as well. Like I said, we're still working on the actual design.
It's going to be a while since.
But yeah, so but I could see how it could easily be done just because of the way that we are designing these. I think we really should, honestly, because that's the that's the highest skill, hardest stuff that we've got in the game. So, making leaderboards for that feels appropriate.
It'd be really good to see as well how what other players are playing as far as like commander combinations go. Because I remember the one from a couple of weeks ago where it was on a missed opportunities map. I don't know exactly what the name was, but it took me like. That's the only, like most of them kind of, we managed to one-shot that or two-shot or maybe a third attempt, but that one took like days to complete. And it turns out that apparently you can complete it quite easily if you ran Rainer with vultures and you could just put them on the spawn locations where enemies were gonna spawn.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you make a leaderboard, that's quite quickly given away, I suppose. And
could, but it might be one of those things where you kind of keep that secret,
Yeah, maybe.
Hoard your knowledge there. It's as long as you can to stay number one.
So as far as the mastery system goes in co-op, one of the things I noticed that if you play it quite a little bit, you very quickly start, accumulating those points, and at some point you're at the max level, right? And previously I had already heard that apparently people are accumulating levels much faster than you guys anticipated. Like as soon as they were available, even people within a couple of weeks got to the max level and they're just sort of sitting there. Are there any plans to like make that system maybe go to a higher level or give some more detail to that?
We've talked about some ideas there. We have nothing really to announce yet or whatever, but we are talking about it and we're viewing it. I mean, in any leveling system in all our games, like there's always players that just speed through it, and it's great. I mean, but the reality is it's actually a pretty minority of players. So while it's a problem for those people and we are aware of it and we want to solve it, we still aren't ready to like figure out how to solve that yet. So we've talked about prestige systems. We've talked about just adding more mastery levels. So that would one of those probably is how we'll go. But again, we haven't really discussed it fully yet and committed. We've got so many other systems that we're focused on, like with War Chest, that it's difficult to because that requires usually engineering time, and so they're a much more limited resource for us than we would like. But the realities of game development.
It's easier if you make something with a system that's already in place. Obviously.
Yeah. So, but again, like it's something we're watching and discussing. And
it's not particularly super hard at like level 15 or 14, or level 14 or 13. But then once you get level 15, you get like a huge power boost and. All of a sudden, the brutal difficulty isn't, very brutal anymore. Are there any like plans? I don't know exactly how big that player base is that like plays brutal in the first place, but are there any plans to like increase the difficulty on that, same way as well? Because like the higher level you get, obviously, the easier it just simply becomes.
So we do continually tune the balance. So brutal. I mean, depending on who you're playing. Who you're playing with, it could feel harder or easier, even if we do feel like we've made it harder, We mostly focus, though, our super hard challenges into the mutators section, just because it's an area that we can really feel like we can kind of be almost mean in a space. Like, we're going to, and we watch,
I'm
every week, we watch it, and we watch the reaction from the community, and it's sort of like, it's a really fun process for us because we get really immediate feedback, and so we'll like, we plan ahead, 12 weeks in advance or something where we're like, cool, 12 weeks, can't wait to see when this one comes to the community, or like whatever. I mean, I'm not saying it's not exactly 12 weeks.
But it's like, at the very least, like it's that far in advance. It's not like, they're working on the one right now for, well,
we usually stack them. We usually stack them ahead of time. So,
all right.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's fun to like see basically the community reaction every week. The new one comes out and we're like, well, they find this one to be harder or easier, and so... Yeah, so
it's difficult to say as well.
That's the space that we really enjoy for players that do find brutal to be too easy. Is that we just try to find ways to really challenge them in there, and then with custom mutators as well. Like you can just you could go in and make your own
Yeah, you can make
like
some crazy
mission of
stuff.
pain if you wanted to there, you know, like
If you really badly wanted to.
so,
All right, cool.
yeah.
All right, so I wanted to just briefly talk about the Nova Covert Ops missions as
Sure.
well, like the third pack. Can you tell us anything about that, or any hints on it
let's
at
see,
all,
what
without
can I
like
tell you?
spoiling the entire story?
Well, I'll just say that it does end pretty definitively, and it's a
All right.
pretty cool end mission. Like we really strove to do something unique with the last mission.
All
All
right.
the missions have something unique, but this one was one that we really, there's a concept that had been floating around in our design space for a long time, and we really captured it in the mission. So I'm being vague because I don't want to tell you exactly, but
All right.
but
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
it's really cool.
So like when you design missions, you just come up with a list of cool things, and
A lot of times, yeah.
sometimes you just implement them in a mission, and sometimes it's just
A lot of times we
Just
try
written
them
away.
out, and we find it doesn't work, or it's too complicated, or people aren't understanding it. So many times we'll just try something, and it didn't work. We'll do something else, and then we save those ideas for later. And,
Right.
And so that's kind of, I think, what happened with that mission in particular. Is we had this idea floating around, and
And then lastly, I want to also talk about the war chest that they announced just now at the panel. It seems like a really cool concept. Could you tell us about it?
yeah, sure. So primarily, War Chest is on a player engagement system, but it also has the side effect of also helping fund WCS. Or, I shouldn't say WCS. Any StarCraft 2 tournament. You know what I mean? Like,
All right.
So essentially, you buy into it. We're still working out the details of like how much that is and everything, but the rewards, you'll get some rewards immediately as you play multiplayer. And we're talking about potentially getting it to work for co-op as well to contribute to the war chest. We're still, again, all these things are still being developed, so I can't say for certain, but it will definitely be for multiplayer. And then so you'll progress through this system and you'll unlock new things. So it'll be cosmetics like skins, voice packs. Actually, maybe not voice packs. Emojis,
You get stuff.
decals. Yeah, it's all the things that encapsulate the experience and allow you to show off.
So you get it in like different tiers depending on like how many games you've played, or
I think it's more of like an experience thing. So rather than games, because we don't want to like incentivize you just like throwing games. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
lose, I don't care.
People
you know what I
would
mean?
use it
So
if
it's
they
more
can.
of like a playing the game, just the way we give you experience in the game basically contributes to the war chest. So if it's a short or long game, it doesn't matter. The XP you get will translate into the war chest.
Right now, if you complete a game, it says like you earned this much experience.
Yeah.
It says max level, whatever if you max level, but then it'll
contribute to the war chest.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So because we feel like that we want to ensure that the competitive experience stays still good, and not like people are just throwing games because they want to progress up the war chest.
Right.
Like, okay, you can do that, but you're getting whatever 1,000 XP or something.
Do you get like better like rewards as well depending on how far you get into the like? I suppose it's called a season then, right? Like the
Yeah. No, totally, and we are calling them like war chest seasons. So the first season will start this time, and then it'll end, and then we'll have war chest season 2 with all new rewards.
So
they don't get. I mean, I think if they get better, that's kind of subjective because that's up to you. What do you think is better, like out of the rewards? Because since it's all cosmetic, there is no power that you're getting from the war chest. We want to stay far clear from like progression of power because this game is so fine tuned.
That'd be awful.
It's like you got like a buff on your.
You can play Marauder now. Like that's not good.
So the war chest will never give strict power. It just gives cosmetics. So like if you like.
I'm sure people value like voice packs over.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own personal preferences.
Right.
So, so I think skins are probably what most people value the most because it really shows off in the game. Voice packs, yes, they're cool, but really, you hear them yourself. So I can imagine players mostly value skins. But again, everyone has their own personal preference.
All right, so that's pretty much all of my questions. Thank you very much for all the help.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
It was really
awesome.
great
Thank you
talking
very
to
much.
Yeah.
Been good.
Yeah, awesome.